So this is a video for the round 2 game. We played against Swaziland. I played a guy called Mbongeni. He was only graded 1560, and I was black. The team actually finished as 3.5 winners. I think though that they played a little bit higher than their grades, and they were quite a lot better. I'll maybe see a little bit about that as we go through the game. Yeah, he played E4. I knew he played E4 already, and we kind of assumed it was either going to be an advanced French or an exchange French. Here I was thinking he might play E5 and then after C5 go B4 and go for like a wing counter gambit kind of thing, which would have been quite interesting. I've got a game on the database recently with this line where I didn't play C5. I think I played Bishop D7. So here I was thinking, could he do that? But nope, he did do the exchange French. And then he played Bishop E2, so he didn't play D4. And this gives me the option of playing D4 here myself, and then possibly just supporting the pawn with possibly C5, getting my pieces out behind it and having a massive space advantage, which maybe against somebody else I might do, but I shouldn't really do this, but because it was great, I just thought, why try and mix it up and just keep it simple throughout the game and wait for the mistake to happen. So I played Bishop D6, castles, Knight E7. The whole idea being that after he plays Bishop G5, I'm going to be able to get the bishop pair now by Knight F5. The other option was Knight to go to G6 and then into F4 and win the bishop pair that way. However, I thought that actually doubling his pawns on the G3 was a better option, and here I expected him to take back with the H pawn. But I guess really, if you're lower graded than somebody, then you need to be aggressive. And he opens up the F file for himself, which does actually prove quite useful. And his king's quite safe there. I can't really make too much use of this E3 square at the moment. Even the queen check there, the king moves and it doesn't do anything. So my main trump card in this position is that I've got the bishop pair, but I've also got this dark squared bishop, which he's got he's got nothing that he can do about. So dark squares should be mine. So what he needs to do is put all his pawns on dark squares. And what I'm probably going to do is put my pawns on light squares, just to hamper in his bishop. Plus my pawns will complement my dark squared bishop at the same time. And that should be good. But also as well, with him taking away from the centre here, he kind of gives himself a bit of a problem in the centre, because as you'll see, the pawns become a little bit isolated, and if he doesn't do what he does, so here he played a really aggressive move. I've just played C6. I should probably develop my bishop maybe next time. He played C4, which I think is a good move. He's got to open lines. He can't allow me to consolidate and get these pieces out, because if he does that, then he is going to be worse. And C4 is a good move. It's active, it's aggressive, and that's what you need to do against a higher rated opponent. I mean, the games that we had on these guys were all from 2 years ago, and they've stayed the same grade, and that's because they haven't played any other games at all. Well, ones that are classed as on our databases anyway. But of course, they probably improved for 2 years. They might be better than the grades, but they also might not. So yeah, C4 is a good move, and I was thinking what to do here. Do I maybe defend the pawn with the bishop? I thought they might have some sort of queen b3 idea, knight c3. So this is like an option. You might just go here, and this is now awkward for me. Queen c7, maybe just knight c3. He's also got c5 ideas. Obviously pushing this bishop back, but just as this, it still forces me to take and then swap off the light squared bishops, and that might be okay for him. So I thought I'd play the long waiting game and then try and get to an endgame by giving him an isolated queen's pawn. So now after takes and check, this pawn here is something that I'm going to build up on. I'm going to try and take control over this d5 square, and then stick both rooks on this d pawn and eventually win it, and then go into an endgame with a pawn up. And hopefully win the game that way. It doesn't prove to be as easy as that though, because his next move is quite interesting. He plays Queen C2. I was just like, oh, damn, he's got this very simple plan. Suppose I just do something, I don't know, that looks like a normal move like bishop g4. I mean, you can play bishop d3 now, and I've got a massive problem with my h7 pawn. I don't want to push it forwards because then that leaves light square weaknesses all over the place. And if I play g6, it's got such ideas such as bishop takes, pawn takes, queen takes, and I'm just like, oh my god, you get a perpetual here against me quite easily. And obviously I have to move my bishop, and then he goes queen h6, queen g6, and he gets a draw. And this is definitely something that I don't want to allow. So I kind of preempt it and play g6 first of all. Also with the idea that bishop f5 might be a useful move. I've got to be careful with bringing this bishop out because of the b7 pawn. So we might do a queen to b3 idea. But yeah, his pieces are well placed. He just needs to do normal development now. He plays knight h4. Obviously, again, this g6 pawn is under attack. And maybe I should play king g7 now, but I chose to go f5. Obviously, with my original plan of putting my pawns on light squares to counteract this bishop, kind of isn't working as well now because he's got this beautiful diagonal for it, which causes me a lot of issues in the game. He plays queen c3, obviously spot the subtle. Well, it's not really a threat because I can just play queen to f6 afterwards, and then I'm happy to swap queens. However, it's something that I've got to be wary about. So now I could meet d5 with bishop e5. So therefore he just plays his knight back to f3, which obviously covers this square. Knight b6. Now after this line, he doesn't do this. He plays bishop back to b3, but if he plays pawn on, the key point being after queen here, let's say queen takes queen, rook takes queen, and now my knight's attacking his bishop and attacking his pawn at the same time. He's going to move his bishop back, and then I win a pawn, and I'm very happy with that. So yeah, that's the idea of knight b6, bishop b3. And here I played queen to f6. I was quite interested in the line of what happens after a5, d5 check, queen f6. He doesn't have to take, but this is kind of what I was potentially looking at. Pawn takes pawn, and then actually sacking the pawn with a4. Bishop, let's just say c2 for now. That's my go, isn't it? Oh no, because he doesn't have to play bishop c2. So here he can do pawn takes pawn first because he's on the rook. Then bishop takes pawn, then bishop c2. That's better. Yeah, I know I analysed something properly. So I've sacked a pawn, but I can just follow up knight c4 now. And actually, I've got this square, I've got this diagonal, I've got this diagonal. So I've put my bishop on c5 check, and it's looking pretty dangerous. And I've also possibly got this b2 pawn as well if I need some insurance. But I thought after if I don't have any, I didn't see any tactics here to win the game. And if I don't actually win anything, there's not many pawns left to actually win the game. Because I might get a pawn on a3 perhaps if I just take on b2, and that could win me the game. But it's I'm running short of pieces. So I didn't decide to go into that line. Plus, he doesn't have to do queen takes f6 as well. He could delay that. I don't know if it's that much better for him. And I play queen f6 myself. Plays his knight out. And then I just saw loads of potential tactics for him. He just needs to play simple moves. He brings his other rook to e1. I mean, there's even knight here, knight e4 possibilities. I don't think it quite works, and then followed up by like a knight e5 idea with the rook obviously on the queen. So that's when he opened up the f file. But of course I'm in danger because he's got the bishop covering these, he's got the queen covering these. The knight could come into g5, and then you're looking at e6 and f6 for the knight to jump into. And it's all happened just because of simple moves. I don't know how much of this he actually saw. But it was potentially quite scary for me. So that's why I chose to block up the position with knight d5, and I fully expected him to take this knight and do pawn takes, and then I just have to play two bishops against two knights, and play on from that position to win the game. However, he moved his queen, which I was just like, yes, right, finally the mistakes happened. Because obviously his bishop's quite good, but maybe he doesn't realise that taking the knight's the best move. And now I've definitely got a much better position, much more fluid position, because I can keep his pawn here isolated, and I don't need to take back on d5 with a pawn. And that's really where I'm going to win the game. So plays knight c4, bishop back, rook c1. Rook c1's a bit, I don't know why he's played rook c1, rook e1 was much better. Rook c1, I'll put my rook into the centre. Now I'm all developed. King h1, f4 comes. He's starting to approach time trouble now, but this f4 advance I saw quite right from the beginning, actually, from when I decided to play knight f5, knight g3, knight takes g3 as a possible way of breaking open the position. He takes. There is better moves here, but I take the pawn with the knight, queen e3, stick my bishop on this beautiful d5 square. See how all my pieces are on it, and now the f file can be a strength for me, whereas before it was just a weakness. Knight e5, stick a knight in the centre of the board, sounds like a good plan. Not sure about my next move, queen f5. Starting to approach time trouble now. We're 25 moves in now, and I knew that at some point here it was going to get an ending where we swapped off some pieces. So maybe queen e4 was possibly on, but I'm looking at doing bishop takes knight here at some point. Maybe I have to move in this knight out of the way so we can't take back with the knight because of the f1 rook being attacked by my queen and rook. And I'm just after swapping queens and getting to an endgame. Here he does bishop takes bishop, but actually there's quite a nice line. I don't know if I was analysing during the game after knight h4, can I do knight takes g2? And no, I don't think I can. He has to do here. His only move to see, otherwise black's winning, from the computer. I was looking at this thinking this wins, but actually the computer says that the only move for white to win is to play this move. I do not think he would have seen that move during the game. I guess an example line would run something along the lines of knight takes queen, knight takes e3 check, bishop takes d5. Or I could do anything here. Knight takes knight. Knight f7. I mean, it says knight takes rook f1. And this is winning for black when we count up the pieces, because I'm attacking two pieces at the moment. Knight f7 is no good really, because I just take it and then move my knight. So knight f7, takes f7, bishop takes f7. It's the pawns that are the problem. So, the h2 pawn I can take with my knight. Okay, yeah. I was going to look at this line, and I probably would have played it, and I might have come a cropper if he did the knight takes pawn. However, I very much doubt he would have seen that move. I didn't even consider it. So anyway, he takes here, knight takes, I'm happy to swap off pieces, and queen g5, he's kind of playing into my hands here. I want to swap queens off, because I'm just going to play against this d4 pawn. So this is good. I saw quite a few lines here where I can swap off into an endgame to get a pair of rooks off, queens off, bishop takes knight on e5, and then possibly pick this when this pawn takes back here, take the knight, win this pawn. So I play king g7 just to delay it for a move, and my king close towards the centre. He takes the queens off, which is great. And then actually I have to be really careful here. There's loads of ideas, and maybe my king g7 move isn't quite accurate. But he's got knight g5 and then into this e6 square. But also if I swap rooks, he's also got this f7 square. So if he's got rook and f1 and knight and g5, and he's playing rook f7 check, that's pretty bad. So I had to be careful. I played rook f6 to cover this e6 square, and then after knight g5, play rook df8. He swaps rooks, so it's all covered now. I'm very happy. I don't know what he's doing with king g1, and then this is pretty much routine from here on in. I'm winning a pawn somewhere here because I'm going to do bishop takes knight, and he has to take back with a knight, otherwise I'll pick up a piece, and therefore I win the d4 pawn. There's lots of different ways of winning. Even bishop b6 is an idea, which I did consider, but I went for just a simple knight e3. I couldn't see a point of messing around. And then we reached the time control roundabout here. Rook f6, rook f1, king d6. He doesn't know what he's doing too much. And then I've stuck my king on a perfect square for it because it's right in front of this pawn. And he's having to defend from my king. My king's nice and active at the centre of the board. Even if I wasn't a pawn up here, this would still be very unpleasant for white. It might be holdable, but key thing is that I can just put all my pieces on this pawn. I can play bishop b6, I can get my rook active, whereas he's going to be tied down with all three of his pieces defending d4. But he plays rook g4, and I just had a lot of think just how to win the game, because I was sure it was winning at this point. He's got trying to do a nice setup where he's going to play rook e4, and if I do g5, he might play h4 and try and swap these pawns off and win them. So just needs to be careful here, and after bishop check, king d3. I think pretty much the nail in the coffin for him was bishop c1. And at this point, he took a lot of time. I think he knew it was lost. I don't think he wanted to lose another pawn for some reason, but I think actually probably giving up the b2 pawn was probably the best idea for him to try and activate his rook. Of course, my rook's attacking the knight here, as well as my bishop attacking the pawn. I expected some sort of idea like, I don't know, knight e5, bishop takes pawn, knight c4, hoping that I'd move my bishop, because then that's the end of the game. So I was looking at this line, but I don't need to move my bishop because I can just do rook here check. Because if king back, king takes rook. So he has to block it. And if he blocks with the rook, I can swap off and then take on d4. If he blocks with the knight, I can probably just play bishop c1 and then swap off all the pieces into this one king and pawn endgame. But he didn't do that. He checked me, and then he played knight d2. So I was just like, well, I'm a pawn up, I'm going to swap off. And then, of course, I've got the rook f2 check move, which means that his king has to go back to c1 if he wants to try and keep hold of a pawn. And he doesn't want to do that move. He doesn't want to come to c3 because of rook f3 check, picking up this guy. And I've got connected past pawns, and it should just be easy winning. However, you should definitely play on from this position, and probably play king c1 and then either rook f3 or rook h2. I think I was going to go rook f3, and then he should probably play pawn forwards, take, and then rook here, and then we get some sort of ending that looks like this. And I'm going to pick this pawn up, march this guy down the board. And I've got 3 against 2 here, so I'll create a second pass pawn, and I'm going to win the game that way. However, he just played rook e2. I've got no idea why he did this. It just makes it so simple. Takes king takes, and he should resign here, but he played on for a few moves. And his king gets drawn away, and he resigns finally at this position. Because of course I'm just going to queen the pawn. But yeah. I think he played better than his grade, but you have to play the board when you're playing against low-graded players, and you have to try and calculate absolutely everything. And sometimes by just playing simple moves, you do cause problems for your opponent. So hopefully we can do that today, playing against New Zealand. I'm doing this video in the morning because we got back late last night, because I decided to wait for Alex Bullen to finish his game because it looked very drawish at one point. I thought it was going to be a draw. He played on for... don't even know how long he played on for, but he did manage to finally grind out a win, which I was very happy for him about. So yeah, hope you enjoyed the video. Give it a thumbs up if you like it. Yeah, hopefully we can do something against New Zealand today.